What's going on, everybody? This is the drop for Tuesday, August 11th. Thank you all for joining. Hope everyone had a good weekend. We have a bunch of new stuff to tell you about, as always, so let's get into it. First, we have a new episode of Past, Present, Future Live featuring Bronte Fall. So I had the pleasure of sitting down with Terry Bracken, who created a band called Bronte Fall. They have a new album coming out next week, and Terry and I talked about her journey from Chicago to Berklee College of Music to Nashville and the making of her first two albums. She was trained as a violinist, but ended up going into the singer-songwriter route after going to Berklee, which you can hear about in the interview. We talked a lot about her songwriting, especially on this most recent album called Finishing School, which comes out next week. We talked about the themes that are present in that album about female empowerment, independence, and strength. They come through really strongly in this album, and a lot of her experience in the music industry helped inform that, which we talk about at length. And as always, the guests always play 3 exclusive live songs for us. So at the end of this intro, I'm going to play one of those tracks for you from Terry, video version and audio version. You can always watch all the videos of the performances and check out its Spotify playlist. I'm going to put a link in the show notes. Please subscribe to Past, Present, Future Live if you like what you hear, if you like what you see. We appreciate your support, and stick around in a minute for a live track from Bronte Fall. All right, number 2, Dick's Picks 12 on 36 from the Vault. So Rob and Steven's summer tour is in full swing, and in this latest episode, they look at Volume 12, which combines shows from Providence, which is June 26, 1974, and Boston, June 28, 1974. So this Dick's Picks is a fan favorite for good reason. It showcases the Dead's successes with the Wall of Sound right in the midst of that era, as well as their heavy focus on improv in 1974. And of course, Rob and Steven, as always, touch on other things happening in the world and in the Dead world. They talk about the band's impending hiatus, which happened, shortly after this tour, and the beauty of mid-70s Warren Beatty's hair. So there's a lot in there. It's always fun. It's funny. They do a great job, and we're glad that their summer tour is rolling on. So check on the link in the show notes to check out the new episode of 36 from the Vault. All right, number 3, a new Eric Krasno +1. This week's guest is Cochemea Gastelum, who's a saxophonist and composer who made his mark as a member of the Dap Kings, the funk and soul band behind the great late vocalist Sharon Jones. He's also played with artists from Amy Winehouse to Run the Jewels, and he's always experimenting with effects and other sounds you might not expect to hear from a sax player. He's one of Eric's most played albums of 2019, his album All My Relations. So they talk a lot about Sharon Jones. They talk about Daptone Records. They talk about Cochemea's experimental ethos and a lot more. As always, great episode, great interview from Eric. So check that out. Link is in the show notes. Number 4, drummer Russ Lawton is the guest on No Simple Road. So this week's episode features the crew talking to Russ, who of course plays in Trey Anastasio Band, Soul Monde, and the new group Lamp, which we had on this podcast a couple months ago. Scott Metzger, Ray Pachkowski, and Russ Lawton. The crew from No Simple Road talks about this new project, what it was like releasing it during the pandemic, what it means for a drummer to find their voice, and much more. As always, these are in-depth conversations, great vibes coming from the porch out in Portland, and we're happy that they came out with this episode, and we're happy to have them as part of the Osiris family, of course. All right, finally, number 5, I want to give you a quick reminder about Comes a Time podcast. There are episodes out with Bob Weir, Melvin Seals, and Mountain Girl. And I want to thank our team, Eric, who edits this podcast, Nick, Christina, Kirsten. So many people are helping out, get this out to you, and Oteil and Mike, of course, doing a great job with these interviews. So there's 4 episodes out now, including those 3 interviews and a pilot episode. They're all really great. For example, in the Melvin Seals interview, Oteil and Mike talked to Melvin about his experiences with racism and the Black Lives Matter movement at this point in time, how playing with Jerry was like church, and how Jerry changed the way that Melvin heard music. In the Mountain Girl interview, Oteil and Mike talked to her about the early days of the Grateful Dead, those merry prankster psychedelic experiences, and the mystical experiences that connect to one's creative spirit. One thing that's really cool about this show is that Oteil is a really spiritual dude, as is Mike. So they get in depth and take kind of a different angle from a lot of podcasts where musicians are being interviewed, just because they have this perspective and this kind of spirituality embedded in them. And Oteil brings such a great spirit to this, and Mike adds a lot to these conversations as well. So I'm enjoying Comes a Time podcast. I hope you all are too. I hope you'll subscribe to it. So let's get into a live track now from Bronte Fall. Thanks, everybody. See y'all tomorrow.
And my last song is on the new EP out in 2 weeks, or out August 21st. It's called 6 Years. And it was a single I released a couple weeks ago. So you can find it on Spotify. This is my anthem song celebrating aging and how awesome we get as we age. This is 6 Years.
Been here before, but I wasn't ready to knock on all the big doors. My hands were unsteady, so naive and it shows. Oh, I didn't even know how scared I was of everything. Had to shed the fear only living brings. But here I'm 6 years older, 6 years smarter, 6 years stronger, with the will that's unshakable. I'm 6 years taller, 6 years tougher, 6 years braver, and my spirit's unbreakable. Victim to life. Oh, I kept forgetting to keep my head held high. I let the pain get to me through all those tormented nights. Oh, somehow I lost sight of my 2 feet and my dream. I got so down, wanted to call it quits, but here I'm 6 years older, 6 years smarter, 6 years stronger, with the will that's unshakable. I'm 6 years taller, 6 years tougher, 6 years braver, and my spirit's unbreakable. See, it doesn't matter when, just why and how in the end, 'cause only heart and soul are left long after our last breath. Oh, I'm 6 years older, 6 years smarter, 6 years stronger, with the will that's unshakable. I'm 6 years taller, 6 years tougher, 6 years braver, and my spirit's unbreakable. I'm 6 years older, I am 6 years smarter, I am 6 years stronger, with the will that's unshakable. I'm 6 years taller, 6 years tougher, 6 years braver, and my spirit's unbreakable. All right, guys, thank you so much. That was 6 years.